The Capitals' top three future stars.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about future stars. And I think it's important to have our eyes fixed to the future while keeping a mindful eye to the present, as well as we have seen players slowly start to peel off. I mean, Nick Backstrom hasn't formally retired from hockey, but he will most likely play out the final season on his current contract on the LTIR. And then you take a look at TJ Oshie. You know, the future for him is a bit murky too, with all the back issues that he has. And Alex Ovechkin, the great 8, is on the back 8 of his career, or back 9, if you will, of his career as well. So the Capitals need to have their eyes fixed to the future while keeping a mindful eye on the present. In the first segment here, we will talk about Ryan Leonard, as that should come as no surprise, as he has absolutely killed it at the World Juniors, the World Championships, and at Boston College. He figures to be a huge piece to the Capitals' future. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We will talk about a present star. I guess I'm going to go ahead and say Ivan Miroshnichenko, as we know that he had a couple stints with the Capitals on the big team and is absolutely killing it for the Hershey Bears. He also stands to be a huge piece. And then in the final segment, we will talk about Andrew Cristall, a guy that's future is a little bit more murky, I guess, in the top 2. But ultimately, I think once he refines his game, he stands to be a huge piece of the Capitals' future. But just to get it going here, talking about the Capitals and how they have to have their eyes set to the future. I know that oftentimes I talk about on the show, what are the Capitals going to do in the fall? What are they going to do in the fall? What are they going to do tomorrow? Those are important things. Don't get me wrong, but you also have to have a mindful eye on the future. As like I talked about there, a lot of the older players are slowly starting to peel away, and you're going to need the next wave of young Caps stars. The Capitals prospect pool received a significant boost from the top of its 2023 draft class with the addition of Ryan Leonard and Andrew Cristall, both considered to have first-round talent. Despite key graduations, the Capitals pool is in a better position than it has been in 4 years, though it is still relatively thin compared to others. And why is that? Well, that is all the perils of being in win now mode. And the Capitals have been in win now mode for, I'm going to go ahead and say, at least 2018, perhaps before that, especially that they found that lineup, the 2018 lineup, found a way to win a Stanley Cup. Well, we have to repurpose it and reconfigure and try to get as much as we possibly can. We'll kick out a draft pick to get, a rental player. We'll think about the present and won't think about the future at all. And ultimately, that is why the Capitals were in the position that they were in. They've taken steps of improvement, but still have much to do as far as the future is concerned. But Ryan Leonard is one player I know for sure will be a huge piece to the Capitals' future. He is the guy that oftentimes I refer to as a Tom Wilson 2.0. He has a lot of the same characteristics. He plays with some snarl. He has some physicality to his game, and he knows how to score goals. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of player he grows into. If we remember Tom Wilson, when he first entered the league, he wasn't quite the hulking big guy that he is today. I think that ultimately Ryan Leonard will turn into a player somewhat similar to that. Ryan Leonard is an exciting prospect for the Capitals. At 19 years old and playing for Boston College, he has already made a name for himself as a versatile and powerful player on the ice. With his high energy and scrappy style, he's able to bring his teammates into the game and make big things happen. And I don't think it's just going to be for Boston College. I'm going to be candid here with you, Capitals fans. I think that he is going to be an absolute game changer when he joins the Capitals. I think the Capitals will immediately go to next level. And I know I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself, as you know, maybe it's not going to translate pound for pound from Boston College to the Capitals, but I think that he is a dynamic player, and I think that his trajectory and his arrow is pointing up. I think the Capitals will be in a really great position. What's impressive about Leonard is not just his energy, but also his skill. He's not just that tough guy. He has quick hands, a hard shot, and the ability to make quick moves to get into scoring positions. That's what's been said about him, is he's good at getting those greasy goals, setting up front, doing whatever it takes to find the back of the net. That is exactly what the Capitals are looking for. He's not afraid to drive to the net and strong enough to battle through contact. Plus, he's developed a defensive awareness that adds another dimension to his game. And it's going to be interesting to ultimately see what happens with him, as we know that he was playing with Will Smith at Boston College. And now we know that Will Smith will be joining the San Jose Sharks. That is the pressure on him, is that his line is getting broke up there. Will that put the pressure on Ryan Leonard to join the Capitals in the fall? Or will he say, yeah, I see all that, but I still want to play another year in Boston? Again, I would love for him to join the Capitals in the fall. Brian McClellan, the GM of the team, he said that whenever he's ready, he's got a job. It's just up to him. But he's still a young guy, and I know it's important not to rush these things. While he may seem as a net-focused player at times, he has been working on becoming a more intensive and less predictable player on the ice. His improvements in the area, along with development on his backhand shot, make him an even more dangerous offensive threat. The Capitals did struggle in the goal-scoring department, so if they can have a guy that knows how to score goals on the regular, that's a win-win. Despite being a top prospect, Leonard remains humble and determined to improve. He's proven to be a key player for Boston College and has performed well at the World Juniors and the World Championships, showcasing his potential as a future NHL star. It's one of the things that, oftentimes I'm indecisive. Will this guy turn into being, a good player or not? I don't, dilly-dally. I don't acquiesce. I know that for sure that he is going to be a really great hockey player, an NHL hockey player. And I think he is going to, change the Capitals in a big way. As a Washington Capitals prospect, Leonard has the potential to become a key player in their lineup. His ability to score, bring physicality to the game, and adapt to different line combinations make him an exciting prospect for the team. With his impressive skill and work ethic, it's clear that Ryan Leonard is a player to watch for in the future. The question is when will Ryan Leonard be willing and ready to join this team? Again, whenever he, signs on the dotted line and joins the Capitals at camp, I think this team will grow by leaps and bounds. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, we will talk about another dynamic player in Ivan Miroshnichenko. This guy has had to overcome all sorts of obstacles put in his way, but he has crushed through every one of them. When and where can we expect to see Ivan in the fall? I'll discuss straight ahead. A lot of life is unpredictable, but a good life insurance plan gives your family a financial safety net to protect against some of the unknowns. Policygenius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It makes choosing the right policy for your family easy, and quick. And it's one of the things that I did. It was quick and easy. Listen, I have a wife and kids at home. I want them to be prepared in the unfortunate event that something happens to me. That is why life insurance is cheap and why you need to check out our friends at Policygenius. It can be an absolute game changer. Policygenius has no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. They have thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs. So take the worry out of your life about, are my kids going to be okay if something happens to me, my wife, my significant other, and get that peace of mind with Policygenius. Get that peace of mind by finding the right life insurance policy with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you the can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So in this next segment here, we will talk about a player that got a big opportunity this past season. Ivan Miroshnichenko, he was on the team. He got sent down to Hershey, got called up towards the end of the season. And all things considered, I think that he played better than expected. When he was on the team, earlier in the season, I thought there was some question there, as I don't think that he was totally acclimated to the North American game. But what I've seen from him in Hershey in the Calder Cup playoffs is he is next level. And I think that this is, the perfect scenario for a guy like Ivan Miroshnichenko, is to work on his game. He got some good work in with the Capitals, but he can continue to get that work playing in Hershey, and he has been absolutely crushing it. I'm very, very excited about what the future is for Ivan on the big team. I don't know if he's going to be playing in Hershey next year. I think that if he continues on his current path, I see him wearing a red jersey in the fall, not a brown jersey. But it is exciting to watch him grow as a player and everything that he's had to overcome. Even a promising 20-year-old winger has been making a remarkable comeback, overcoming Hodgkin's lymphoma. Despite missing 2 seasons due to his diagnosis, Ivan has shown positive progression since returning to the ice. His performance in the AHL has been particularly impressive, displaying a strong on-ice presence and contributing offensively at a commendable rate for his age. And what do we know? We talked about the lymphoma. He was able to bust through that and overcome that. He was able to terminate his contract with the KHL. He was able to put on a lot of that weight and muscle mass last summer. He was able to go from Hershey to the Capitals. This guy is a man on a mission. If you want to look up the word determination and the definition, look at Ivan Miroshnichenko. That man is determined, and ultimately why he is in the position that he's in. Prior to his diagnosis, Ivan was widely considered as Russia's top prospect in the 2022 draft. Although his ranking shifted following his illness, his talent and potential were never in doubt. Known for his leadership on the international stage and his solid domestic play, Ivan's skill set has always been highly regarded. And I think that, if he didn't have that Hodgkin's lymphoma diagnosis, and I think that he would have gotten higher in the draft. I really do. And good on Ross Mahoney and his crew for vetting the situation and finding out that it was in remission and that he was in a good position. And I think that was a solid move. I'm kind of in a lot of ways surprised he was available at that particular spot, but a win for the Capitals. And I think that he will continue in the fine legacy of great Russian players on the Capitals. Ivan's game is characterized by a combination of athleticism, powerful shooting, and strong skating ability. With good offensive instincts and a resilient attitude, he has the markings of a top-tier player. However, his analytical skills on the ice have been identified as an area of improvement. Despite this, he is on track to become a valuable middle six winger. At least I think that, the ceiling is high on him. I'm going to be really excited, like I said, to see how he is in camp in the fall and how he continues to play for Hershey in the Calder Cup push. It's just really fun to watch him play as he even continues to push forward in his career. His inspiring story and undeniable talent make him a player to watch. With his determination and skill set, he is poised to make a significant impact in the NHL as a member of the Washington Capitals. And I, for one, couldn't be more happier to have even on this team. Again, he is another one of the big pieces of the future. And, I'm going to go ahead and say, unless something crazy happens and Ryan Leonard does sign a contract, he is going to be more about the present than the future. But in any event, I consider him in the top three, an exciting, a dynamic player to watch. And I think that we're just starting to see the beginning of it. Like I said, when we first saw him in camp, we saw him in the beginning of the season, there were some question marks like, okay, is this guy really going to be, the guy to find a spot on the team this year? And last summer, that was one of the things I was really banging the drum for, even that I wanted to see him get an opportunity, and he did. And I think it's paid off, all things considered. I think towards the end of the regular season and into the playoffs, that even was a big game changer for the Capitals. And it's refreshing because, you take a look at the team as is, and it's been kind of the same players for years and years and years. And not to diminish those players, they've done a really good thing, but I'm almost ready to turn the page as we're seeing diminished returns on players like, Backstrom, of course, stepped away, TG Oshie's back problems, and just in general, those players that have been here for a while aren't quite the players that they once were. So as Capitals fans, you should be excited about the present, of course, but the future, I think, is going to be exceptionally bright for this team. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, we will talk about another player that is a bit interesting. We don't know how quickly he will make it into prime time and when he'll land. I'll talk about Andrew Cristall straight ahead. Game Time makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on Game Time actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. And it's not just NBA tickets, it's MLB tickets. So say you are at work and you were going to get tickets to the Nationals game and you forgot about it and you're like, oh no, fear not, as tickets are actually cheaper close to first pitch and or tip-off. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So another player that has some question marks around his name is Andrew Cristall, but I still put him in my top three as a guy that can be an absolute game changer. He is the guy that's the friend with Connor Bedard. He is the guy that many said, if he was so great, why didn't he go in the first round? And I hear all that. There are some questions surrounding Andrew Cristall, but I think that at the end of the day, Ross Mahoney and his crew did the right thing by selecting Andrew Cristall. In a lot of ways, surprised that he was even available. I thought he would have gotten scooped up sooner. Andrew Cristall, a promising prospect for the Capitals, has been making waves in the hockey world with his dynamic playmaking abilities. Despite some concerns about his size and skating, Cristall's creativity and craftiness on the ice have been turning heads. Having faced a quad contusion that momentarily halted his rise during the draft year, Cristall has nonetheless demonstrated his exceptional offensive capabilities, consistently creating scoring opportunities for himself and his teammates. His knack for playing in tight spaces and outmaneuvering opponents has set him apart as one of the most productive draft-eligible players in recent WHL history, showcasing a potential reminiscent of the likes of past number one Ryan Nugent Hopkins. Again, just because Andrew Cristall is a little bit raw right now, I think that he maybe needs a little bit more time to simmer before he's ready for prime time. I think that once he's good to go and ready to play, he's going to be a dynamic player for the Capitals as well. And some people say, well, you said that about Ivan. You said that about Ryan. Yes, that is why these guys are in my top three. I did not pick some low-hanging fruit. I picked some what I consider upper echelon players. And I think that Andrew Cristall has that. He's just got to put in a little bit of work, and I think he's going to be exceptional. Despite his diminutive size, Cristall's intelligence and on-ice awareness have been evident, positioning himself effectively and proving to be challenging target for opposing defenses. His ability to create scoring opportunities in a variety of ways, coupled with his problem-solving skills and spatial awareness, has solidified his reputation as a natural playmaker. Some of the things that I've heard, and I've had when I had Locked On NHL prospects on here, one of the things that they said is he's a good player. Sometimes he tries to go for too fancy of a play. Like when there was just a clear play to make, he's going to try to go above and beyond to try to go for a fancy play. I guess I'm not going to fault him on that too much, but we've seen that with the Capitals before. Last season in particular, where the net was open and he's going to go for the shot. Nope, not so quick. He's going to shoot it to the next guy, and it didn't work. So that's something that I don't want to see. I want these young players to not try to showboat. I want them to go for the sure thing and get some goals at the end of the day. That's one of the things that one of the deficiencies, I guess you could say, of the Capitals this past season. With his stock on the rise once again this season, Andrew Cristall continues to showcase his skills as one of the WHL's most productive players. Again, we don't know exactly how everything's going to shake out with him. His growth and pace and improved footwork and tight spaces have added new dimensions to his game, making him a formidable force on the ice. His age is one of the things that kind of limits his opportunities, if you will. As a Washington Capitals prospect, Cristall's potential to become a game changer for the team is undeniable, and fans can look forward to witnessing his talent and skill unfold as he continues to make his mark in the world of hockey. Again, and I'm okay with the fact that he's not going to be ready, to join the Capitals in the fall. Again, that's just that over-eagerness as Caps fans that we want. We want the team better tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow. Hockey's until the fall, but you know what I'm talking about. We want this team to be better in a hurry. And I do want that. I don't want to be talking about, in a couple years, a few years. No, I do want the team to be competitive in the fall. However, I also want to widen the lens a little bit here and take a look, lift that telescope up a little bit, have it fixed for the horizon, and who's going to be there. It's going to be your Ryan Leonard, your Ivan Miroshnichenko, your Andrew Cristall, your Hendrik Slop here, Connor McMichael, those kind of players, whoever the Capitals draft coming up here soon. And that'll be the topic of a upcoming podcast as well, is the Capitals finally are doing some of the right things. And that is thinking about the future. And I think that, like I said, off the top of the show, for the longest time, they were trying to win this season. What am I going to do to win this season? And that was in large part because of the coaches they had. You took a look at Barry Trotz. You looked at Reardon. You took a look at Peter Laviolette. There was a different mandate, and I can never knock what Barry Trotz did for this team. I'm going to go ahead and say, and I'm going on a sidebar here briefly, but probably my favorite Capitals coach of all time. But the mandate has changed, that it wasn't about winning a Stanley Cup and moving heaven and earth to win a Stanley Cup. Of course, that is the above all end all, is to win a Stanley Cup. That's why they lace up the skates every season. But it's also to finally bring along this youth. And that, I think, is the biggest reason why the Capitals went with a head coach like Spencer Carberry. He has the familiarity with a lot of the players in Hershey, the ones down in the Stingrays, as he was a head coach for both of those teams as well. And he just has a good rapport, I think, with the younger players. I think that, kind of the complete opposite in a lot of ways of Peter Laviolette. I don't think that he had that same rapport with young players. He was very kind of stoic and gruff, and he didn't say a whole lot. And Spencer Carberry is an intense man for sure, but I think that he has more personality to his game, or even just as a man, he has more personality. And those are all positive things. And I think that, that is why, that you take a look at the young players coming up, Cristall, Miroshnichenko, and Leonard. And I would assume that Carberry will still be here when some of those players are ready to come along. But I think that, he is going to be that perfect coach for some of the younger players, where he's, as far as like a young talent, he seems old, but he's not, 60-year-old, an old coach. So I think that, the Capitals are in a good position with the head coach, these young players coming up, that this is the making of the perfect storm, except think of storm in a good way. I think the Capitals will be poised to hit the ground running in the fall. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see what Ryan Leonard chooses to do. It'll be interesting to see if Ivan Miroshnichenko joins the team, and Andrew Cristall, what kind of steps forward does he take next season? It is quite exciting for me as a Capitals fan. Listen, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are ultimately what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On's 24/7 streaming channel, available on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app and on YouTube. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.